Islam Moors, I have had the craziest day, and I'm gonna try not to move or shake this stick. So I'm gonna hopefully try not to move anything and make sure it is centered. Islam. Let's talk. I'm trying to see if my camera is appropriate and make sure it is centered. And it looks a little uncentered. Let's talk. I'm trying to see if my camera. All right. So it's telling me it's a little off. So let me try to move it into. Okay, there we go. I think that's good. Now, y'all don't even want to know all that I went through to get that phone to stay where it's at. I just purchased a easel, just so you know. I purchased an easel and a mount. And when I took my stuff apart, it was missing. My easel and my mount was missing. So my little piece that's to hold the you know, you'll understand, it was very difficult to get here today. The piece that holds the cell phone, I have no idea where it got. Just bought this less than a week ago, so it can hold and stand up by itself. So I got it jimmy rigged right now because I had to order 2 more pieces, and I'm not happy about that, but I had to digress because us Sagittarius don't like to get flustered. So I'm going to start today's class. Okay. And obviously I have my trusty handbook with me. I can't see you guys. I'm going to refer to the laptop to I'm going to refer to the laptop for questions if you have questions of anything. But today's topic is human trafficking. And what I put in the comment section was national human trafficking of the Moorish and Morocco into your private, unlawful, and fraudulent corporate venues is treason and is a violation of the supreme laws of the land. Islam, oh goodness, you just woke up. Islam Phoenix. So a lot of Moors contact me in regards to being detained by these unlawful private corporate venues that are treasonous because they're violating the Moors. Once you declare and proclaim your nationality and you put them on notice by just saying I'm a Moorish American national and I have the right to travel, they're not supposed to be obstructing you. They're literally supposed to be, they're administrators that are acting like judges. Only reasons why they're acting like judges is because we never knew that they were administrators. And they never expressed that to us in any real way, right? So let's start the topic. Let me try to start the topic because let me tell you, I had a hard today already. Human trafficking. I don't know if you can see this. National human trafficking. So let's see if you can see that. Perfect, you can see that. And you can see the red? Cool. You can see the red. So the national human trafficking process. That's that. And I don't like this pen, so I'm going to go get mine. All right. Now, very, very interesting. Human trafficking alerts. Now, I'm going to try to stay focused on the process to get you guys competent in completing it. Moors, you have to realize that the national human trafficking process is something that all Moors should know. The reality is we should not even have to have a national human trafficking process in Morocco as Moors. We shouldn't have to deal with this. So until we're clear as Moorish American nationals and we can stand on a lot of the fundamental principles that we have to deal with, we have to have this process until we get to the point where we are educated enough in knowledge, not propaganda. We will be able to start to stand on our square when dealing with these individuals. All right. So what I wrote there were wards. Wards of any particular corporate state are very much so outlaw bandits and terrorists. That's going to be the theme that I'm going to be spelling because this is reality. If you're identifying as a ward, meaning that you are a so-called subject of one of the corporate states, which only exists on paper, every municipality, every organization that is outside of national principles is an outlaw, a bandit, a terrorist if they're a ward, right? Because individuals classifying as this, which would be these individuals. Who am I missing? Afro. All right. All right. Now, individuals that come in to Morocco under the so-called service corporation, they're usually listed as this. That does not denote skin complexion because, as you know, Albions are not white in complexion. So it is denoting a classification. These are classifications of cattle, property. So, what am I saying? Wars are outlaw bandits and terrorists. These are the classifications of cattle, property, and slaves, as well as Slavs. Right? You have African American, you have whites, you have black, Negro, colored, you have Puerto Ricans, you have Indians and natives. Now, all of these are classifications of wards. All of these are classifications which are cattle, property, enslaved, and Slavs, which are wards, right? They're outlaws, bandits, and terrorists. How are some of the ways that they are outlaws, bandits, and terrorists? That is going to be a very interesting question, but I'm not going to go into that. I just kind of wanted to give you this. This is what we're up against. And these individuals, so-called whites, which is a classification of individuals, those are individuals that come in, they get this so-called status, right? Moors were declassified or denationalized under this category. This one right here, this one, and this one, as well as that one, right? So what I'm saying is that if you classify as this, if you identify as this, You are outside your national status, your national bloodline pedigree. You're outside of this if you classify as this, okay? And if you classify as this, this does not apply to you. What am I saying, Morris, that have not yet declared? I'm sorry, I left my belt home, couldn't find it, tried to get here on time. If you identify as this, you cannot use this, okay? You cannot use national human trafficking processes. What am I saying when I say you cannot use that? This is what I mean. Moors are national at Morocco, Northwest Amexem, which is where my feet are standing. In the building that I am located at, I am in Morocco. You have been miseducated. I'm hoping you can see that. I think I'll just continue to write in black because black is easy to transfer onto white. But this says Moors are nationals at Morocco, Northwest Amexem. Now, people in Morocco, which is Northwest Amexem, which is the continent of America, is being fraudulently identified as this. United States government. They say this is a country. This is not a country. The United States is not a government. It's not a country. Right? And we're going to say United States Service, to give it its due, corporation, to provide services. So, the national human trafficking process is for Moors, the nationals at Morocco, Northwest Amexem. The United States is not a country. The United States Service Corporation is not a government and it's not a country. Okay? It's not a government and it's not a country. It's neither one of those things. Okay? So you can't identify it as such, right? So when people say, like when you, I want to stay focused because this is really all about the human trafficking of the nationals, the Moorish American nationals in Morocco, at Morocco, Northwest Amexem, the continent of America. But you have been deceived, and many people identifying under this classification, which are outlaws, bandits, terrorists, African American classifications, whites, blacks, Negro colors, Puerto Ricans, Indians, natives, are all cattle property classifications of wards who identify under that. You get what I'm saying? So you can't use this if you're identifying as that under this, which is not a country. You got that so far? All right. So if you identify as this and you get detained, if you identify as any of these classifications of wardship status under the United States Service Corporation, you cannot use the national human trafficking process. Because if you're identifying as this, these are the things you're subjecting yourself to. Jurisdiction, right? You're subjecting yourself to the jurisdiction of the United States Service Corporation, right? And earlier this week, I put all of the so-called 50 states. I wish I had room to put it all here, but the 50 so-called corporate states of the United States Service Corporation now, because they're liquidated. They don't have that sovereignty capacity, never really had it, kind of had it through our agreements, which were those 4 supreme laws of the land. The first being the the Declaration of Independence of 1776, the Articles of Confederation of 1777, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787, 1836, still in force, and then the last one, which was the Constitution for the United States of America, 1791. And those documents are what shows you those specific corporate jurisdictions of the United States Service Corporation, because they originated with 13. The 13 original colonies expanded. And if I had a world map, I kind of show you that when you look at the so-called map that they have hypothecated as well, or have created a fraud over, they'll show you a United States Service Corporation map, right? And it'll have the 50 states, and then you'll see the so-called Canada area up here, and then you'll see down here Mexico, I believe. So when you think about the United States Service Corporation and the so-called 50 states, look at that map with just the way it's I ain't gonna draw it because I'm gonna do a horrible. I'm gonna do it. I don't know how to draw a freaking map. I don't know how to do it, y'all. So don't be mad. All right. So this is Canada. This is Mexico, and this is so-called USA. That's so-called under their corporate map, which is a hypothecation of our ancestral Amexa map, is considered to so-called be the country. The United States Service Corporation is claiming to be a country and is claiming that as a so-called territory, right? And then you have all the so-called 50 states, but those so-called 50 states are corporate states. Corporate states. They are it's just like a map on how they divvied up the land in a sense through the colonial colonization process. So what I'm saying here is those so-called 50 states, or the original 13, were like domiciling here around this area. They were like right there. They were like right there, around that area. So all of this, and they were just buildings. Corporations. Well, obviously they didn't have like buildings initially because they had to kind of erect those. But think of when you go to a university. If you go to a university and you're on a campus, think of that as like a plantation, as a colony, because that's kind of how small they started, and they started even smaller than that. Just take your average size college campus, and it was kind of that type of size area, for the lack of a better word. So they had buildings or universities, let's kind of call them that. 13 universities right here, right? And then all of this was Moors. All of this was Moors, right? All of it. And they had plantations and colonies because they were coming over in ships to settle here for commerce and trade. That's kind of what they were doing, right? So how did we get to sit here and call this whole mass, the whole continent, which was the whole continent, which is northwest of Mexico, the whole continent. I'm trying to just give you some type of visualization so you can see this big picture, because Canada's a corporation, United States is a corporation, even Mexico is a corporation, all doing business in the land of Morocco, which is the northwest of Mexico. All right, you kind of got where I'm coming at. So when you go to kind of stores, when so-called highwaymen come and try, pull you over for whatever it is, they're pulling you over in your own land, is my point. That has corporations, businesses. that you think denote to government, that you think denote to the land. It only denotes to a service corporation, providing services here through international trade. Okay? So that's not here. That's not here. That's not necessarily here. In the 13 original colonies was here. So how they get over here? Because you did not come here on those slave ships in the early 1500s. That was the Albions coming over here in those so-called, they're coming over here in those. So make sure you don't hit the table, because I cannot find my little stick here. I can't find my little stick here, and it's gonna, and you might push it. my phone is like literally big. Why is that? Did I leave the camera? I left the camera. I couldn't find my little easel that holds it up, so if you move it, you might just like seriously kick my phone down. So anyway, I just wanted to see what y'all was saying. All right. So what I'm saying here is the continent of America, the Northwest of Mexico, which we call today America, which is this big landmass, that was broken up under conquest, under colonialism, into Canada, USA, Mexico. All right? So whenever you're talking to anybody, you domicile and you are from Morocco. United States is a service corporation. It is not a country, so never even identify it as such. And when they sit here and put these tags on it, they're trying to get jurisdiction, right? This is what ultimately they're trying to do, get jurisdiction of the Moors, right? All right, so I just gave you that little bit of information just to get your concepts right. Because when we, and I know visualization is always a good point, because if we didn't have that, we really wouldn't be able to grasp some of the things that we're talking about. So the United States Service Corporation is not a government. It's not a country. It has no land mass. They're only corporations on paper that have created a whole big map to show you that they have corporations. So think about their maps as ways to identify where their so-called corporations do business. So when you look at those so-called maps, look at them that way. Be like, okay, the Corporation of Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania, they over here somewhere. They do business over here. And then when you think about California, the state of California, they do business right here. But it's not denoting to any land mass.
Can I suggest something?
Yes.
Washington, D.C. is the headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Harrisburg is a satellite site, if that makes sense.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. When you think of, okay, so where on this map, if I can even...
Can I draw the map?
You want to draw the map? See, you want to play games with me. Don't be messing around. We ain't got time. We're trying to stay on task.
I see where you're going.
Where the heck is this?
I see where you're going with this. This is hot.
All right. Go ahead. You want to draw a little map right here? Draw the map right there. Go ahead, Tiger. So he's going to draw a map to denote the United States Service Corporation. There is a wire, so please do not trip yourselves. Or do you want me to move this wire so you don't hurt yourself? I can unplug it if I have to. I'll unplug it because I don't want you to fall. So he's going to draw a map. Here you go. He's going to draw a map and show you, because, you know, I'm just trying to get you some type of visualization. All right. So where were we? All right. So they have hypothecated the maps. And you know, when we were in school, see, he's making it too big already. Yeah. You know, when we were in school, that was one of the first things they taught you, right? When you were in elementary school, one of the first things you had to kind of learn is that damn 50-state map, right? They quizzed you on the states and the capitals, right? So they're like, what is the capital of Pennsylvania? I mean, am I saying it right? What was the capital?
Yeah, the capital of Pennsylvania is is Harrisburg.
Right. So what was the capital of Pennsylvania? Harrisburg. And you had to test this, and you had to get like 100 on it. So this was the social engineering that our parents kind of subjected us to, because they didn't know what the original names and the original classifications of our landmass. So we went with the so-called 50 states. Thank you. That's Washington, D.C.
That's not.
Well, that's fine. That's Florida. It's better than mine. So what he's showing you right now, all right, you don't got to do all of them.
Right, just going to do one or two so you get an idea. And Harrisburg is around here in the northwest. So. Oh, I'm in the central. Excuse me. It's in the central. Wait a minute. This is not.
You ain't gotta go. It ain't gotta be perfect, Tiger. We just gotta get the point. And the point is, they only had a jurisdiction of what? 12 mile?
Right
Was it
here.
12 mile? 15 mile radius?
10 miles.
In Washington, 10 mile radius.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17.
10 mile radius.
Right. That's the satellite right there. And there were 49 others. Okay, and Maine. What's the capital of Maine?
I have no idea. I hated those capitals. Don't ask me. Couldn't tell you.
Well,
I hated
what's the capital of
geography.
Florida?
I have no idea. All I know is Pennsylvania, because that's where I domicile near.
California is Sacramento, so we'll do
Okay.
California.
All right.
California's right here because Mexico's right here.
Yep.
Mexico. So California, Sacramento's up here,
Mm-hmm.
and this is California. Yeah, that's the satellite site, and they claim a jurisdiction for that site. How they operate.
Okay.
That's what they do.
Explain that a little bit to the people.
Okay, I wasn't.
This is Tiger. Yes, they see you.
Oh, no, you don't see.
You was too far back. You got to get inside the lines. So you got to get on this side. Are you seriously going to be doing this? You want me to do it?
No, I was trying to. You said, okay. This is.
You can't use that. That's a delay.
Oh, okay, that's why. No, you just said it. This is there's 50 corporately styled state jurisdictions, and Washington D.C., the 10-mile radius, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 defines that, and that's a de jure operation. Well, no longer, because it's been dissolved since 1933, the bankruptcy.
1861.
Well, 1861, but the shell has been dissolved since 1933, and that's the corporate offices there. And then the satellite is, one of the satellites is Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And another one is Sacramento, California. So wherever there's a capital of that corporately styled state jurisdiction, that's a jurisdiction for that satellite office for the corporation located in Washington, D.C., which is the military complex for-profit owned and controlled by the Jesuit order, so that everybody knows. And it's one of the three functions on the planet. The Vatican, the Crown, which is the international lawyers, international bankers, and Washington, D.C., Washington District of Columbia. That's best I can do.
I mean, you did a good job.
Okay.
So the only thing I was trying to show the people is that the 50 states that you learned, you thought were a part of the so-called United States. So we were miseducated in these brainwashing institutions, genocidal facilities. I'm going to call them that because you did not learn any of your culture or your ancestry in those facilities. You learned corporate colonial operations, right? So the United States was labeled as the so-called country, and within the so-called United States, you had 50, right? And they showed you how you had them. So I was just kind of showing you that because that's kind of how they try to claim jurisdiction in some kind of ways under the United States Service Corporation. Because if you say, oh yeah, I domicile down in Pennsylvania, or yeah, I'm from California, or yeah, I'm from Florida, you're given jurisdiction by saying that, by using those classifications and those tags. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. So this is just a precursor. All this stuff is a precursor to the human trafficking process. And these are some of the ways they get, they assume jurisdiction. They assume jurisdiction because they know darn well majority of our people went to their genocidal institutions of so-called higher learning to learn how to function in society, and not realizing the society that we were getting them prepared was for colonialism. So all of our children, when they go to elementary school, when they go to middle school, when they go to high school, when they go to college or any schooling after that, it's all preparing them for colonialism for the most part. So we have to know that, and we have to to educate our children at home. So mothers, even if you feel like you have no choice but to send them to these facilities, you need to also be giving them knowledge outside of those facilities, because their whole job and their whole premise right now, until we lead them all and get them to do what we need them to do under the international United Nations protections, as well as under the Supremes of the law in Northwest Mexico. Okay, so let's do a recap. Wards are outlaws, bandits, and terrorists, because what are they warring against? They're warring against the nationals, as well as the supreme laws of the land, which are within the North Gate, as well as internationally. So that's the reality. We can sit here and fight about it. It's the reality. If you classify as these, you're wards and you're subject. So if you get detained for not having a driver's license, not having proof of insurance, not having, what's the other one? Registrations of the so-called 50 states, they're going to detain you. They're going to detain you in their corporate facilities. And that's the reality. They're going to do that. So, Moors. These processes are specifically for people who've already done that. If you've already declared, proclaimed your Moorish nationality, national human trafficking process applies to you. But if you identify as any of these individuals, you're wards of those corporate states, and none of this you can use. You can't use it. You'd be considered in their system as an outlaw, bandit, and a terrorist. Which is funny to me, because they don't have anything. All they have is what you give them, right? So, declared and proclaimed Moorish nationals who domicile in Northwest Mexico, in the land of Morocco, the continent of America. This applies to you. This broadcast applies to you. Family, we can't wait until we get into situations to declare and proclaim our nationality. Well, we can, but it's just going to be a lot more we have to do, right? Because you have to learn all those laws, which was what? The first one was what? The Declaration of Independence, 1777. The second one was the Articles of Association, Articles of Confederation, 1777. The third one is the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1786, 1787, 1836. And then the fourth one is the Constitution for the United States of America, 1791. And then you got to learn the international things as well, which are the United Nations on Declarations on the Rights of the Child, Human Rights, Rights of the Indigenous Peoples, as well as the Vienna Convention on Consular Affairs. Those are things that you've got to learn. And it's going to be kind of difficult if you're in a detainment type of situation, and now you have no Moorish friends. Let's say all the people that you domicile with, or you interact with, moms, sisters, brothers, cousins, friends, all identify as that. They all identify here, because as Moorish Americans and consuls, our job, our duty, our oath is to assist, not to do for, to assist. To assist you in becoming competent and clear on your rights as Moorish Americans in Morocco's, and the things that you are supposed to be upholding, which are your rights, which are the supreme laws of the land. You're supposed to be doing that. And the only reasons why a lot of these, like when you go and you see in different communities, the so-called police departments, they are very lucrative. That's because you've been paying all the extortion fees. That's because you've been paying for the detainment, the bonding, as well as been producing a lot of it in their PLW camps. Think about, is it Whole Foods? I think it might be Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. Everybody likes to
It's on the earplugs.
So the point I'm trying to make was, Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's, like a multitude of other corporations, and I would gather most big major corporations use human labor from these POW camps, which are our brothers and sisters that got pulled over for whatever violations because they were wards of the state, and now they are producing products, producing services. Like now, you have the, I don't know which particular prison or POW camp it is down in California, helping fight those fires. So you got individuals that have been taken off of the streets because they were either wards or they even might have been Moors that have declared and is being detained illegally, unlawfully, right? Under the code, statutes, and ordinances of the so-called corporate states, but just that are just like literally corporations in those 50 corporate districts, right? So now you got all your brothers and sisters risking their lives, their limbs, for just a little time to get outside of a POW camp they never should have been a part of, down in California. I heard that last week. As well as somebody posted one today, earlier today, and it was in regards to Kenethia Bryan. It's I can't remember her appellation. Kenethia Bryan. If I'm butchering your wardship name, I apologize. But she was put in custody about, I can't even remember how long she was in custody, a long time ago for prostitution, and she ended up killing the individual who she thought was trying to kill her. I'm just giving you examples of where our Moors under these wardship statuses get put into these kangaroo courts and get many, many years taken off of their lives in terms of freedom and placed into servitude under those wardship statuses because they are wards of the state. So the human trafficking process is only for declared and proclaimed Moorish American nationals. How do you proclaim and declare? Well, you got to be clear that that's your nationality. You got to be clear that that's where you come from as a Moorish American national. So that's just to be clear in your mind that that's your nationality. And then to proclaim it, to put it on those two documents, the one which is the name declaration proclamation, as well as the judicial notice. And then you send it to the 7 locations. Right? And those instructions can be found on the website, the www.MoorishAmericanConsulate.org website. On the service tab, you can find all of those documents to proclaim and declare your Moorish nationality. And if you have issues navigating that site, or it's unclear to you, you can always send me, Sharon Tracy Galbay, Vizier, Mohammedan Judge of the Moorish American Consulate, Moorish National Republic Federal Government, at MoorishAmericanConsulateNE at gmail.com. That's MoorishAmericanConsulateNE at gmail.com. But keep this in mind, I get a lot of emails. Don't expect a turnaround time in 24, even 48 hours. And you might it might be even a week. I'm not even going to sit here and act like that's not a reality. But if you have the competency to declare and proclaim your nationality, and you can read those instructions on the website, you can do it with little to no effort. Just sit down and read the documents. Islam family? Islam. All right. So, how do Moors get detained currently? Right now, it's really through this. What are some examples of illegal, unlawful traffic stops? That's how a lot of our people are getting detained. They're getting detained from this, which is human trafficking, traffic. That's how they trafficking, y'all. And they call it exactly what they're doing. Trafficking stops.
A real live example is when they purchase a car. Can I write it up there?
Nope.
Okay, they purchased the car, it's private, and then they
No, they didn't buy it. Go ahead.
Then they take the car and go to a tag place and make it public. Private ownership for public use. And they pay, and this is all the expense of the individual, not the state. It's corporate estate style jurisdiction. They pay for the tags, they pay for the registration.
Are they paying for any of that?
State don't pay for nothing.
Yeah, but is the people paying for it?
Yes, they are.
How?
This is what I'm saying.
No, you have to be, we talk law. Not.
Oh, you're right. You're right. So they put their energy into this, and they get nothing.
But why are they getting nothing? Why are they getting nothing from it?
They think they're getting something.
Well, how do they think that they're getting something? They're very uneducated. Our people are grossly uneducated on how the world works. And it started in the schools.
Well, actually, just Byzantine Empire, 6th century AD, Justinian I. He was organizing a campaign to come up with a way to have a trust in place so they can absorb resources more controlled from the people. And so the United States has parts of it. And the car is a prime example. You get a certificate of title. So you think you have a title. And
no, you don't. You don't know that you don't have a title because you don't even have the competency, and you never. And when you went down there to that so-called dealership to get that conveyance, which is not a car or an automobile or a motor vehicle, it's a conveyance. It's property. You went to okay. He wants to go back further before the traffic stops. So let's do that. Let's go back further. Transfers of conveyances. Conveyances is property, y'all. Property. Property is conveyance. It could be a house, could be a multitude of things. Somebody has asked a question. All right. Transfer of conveyances. When you go to a dealership, you're going there to transfer that from their estate, which is the corporation or whoever owns the corporation, to yours. But Moors that are the unnationalized and under the wardship status don't know how to do this at all. They don't know how to do this. And they can't do this under that. So when we were under this, we ain't know nothing about that, and they didn't teach us nothing about that. They only taught us how to purchase.
You're right.
Using
unlawful currency. Money. Oh, money substitute actually, but
there ain't no such thing as a fucking money substitute. There's no such thing as a money substitute. Either you got it or you don't. Either you got money or you don't. Either you have it or you don't. This is money, y'all. This right here. This is money. This is money. That's a 1 ounce silver coin troy.
Money law of 1792.
This is money. This was money before the 1700s. This was money before the 500. We was always using this or corn or tobacco or different things that, actually we was never using a piece of paper that you can literally go and Xerox copy some fucking pieces of green paper, right? So this is unlawful monopoly money. Paper. I don't even call it money. I say monopoly paper. Federal Reserve notes are monopoly paper, and they've gotten you to think that they are true. This is money. You ain't got this, you a ward. If you don't have this, and if you're not investing in this, and if all you're walking around with is the Federal Reserve notes, are you an outlaw? Are you an outlaw? Hell yeah. Because the law don't talk about this. All the law says about this is that it's not lawful. And only Federal Reserve employees are supposed to have it. Right? Federal employees are supposed to have this stuff. Y'all, Moors, supposed to have this. This is what you're supposed to have in your pocket, right? So you're outlaws right there, off the rip, because you got that in your pocket. So now you go into a dealership, right? That knows what you're supposed to have and knows how to operate business in Morocco. And then you come in, here go these wars thinking they free, off the plantation, coming to get this. They go to get this. to here. So if you come in there with your fake accounts, think about it. You're coming in there with your fake accounts with no money. Who are they supposed to give the darn manufacturing certificate of origin to? You? You didn't buy it. You didn't purchase it. It was supposed to be transferred from their estate to your estate. This. And when you transferred it from, I ain't gonna say it, when you transferred this for actual lawful currency through a contract, they give you the manufacturing title of origin, and then you put it in your trust, and then you smack your private plates on there, and you travel, right? So this warship game has been played so heavily on all of us that we think that we have wealth. Well, we do in this capacity because the land and the wealth and the resources belong to you. And I had a conversation with somebody who's talked about Prophet Noble Juwali left them in charge, custodial responsibility under administrators. They were always supposed to be just administrators, administering the estate, right? But they put a whole lot of other stuff on top of that. And when I think of, when they say administering estate, I'm thinking they're supposed to be protecting you and what belongs to you. Not just the land and make it profitable. They're supposed to be doing right by you, the ward, who forgot who he was. They owed that allegiance to that. With the Declaration of Independence, they owed their honor. So you mean to tell me you're a liar, a crook, an embezzler, a treasonous, terroristic individual because you pledged all this stuff, right? And then you didn't say anything. And when Moors come into your tribunals and they tell you they Moorish American nationals, you sit here trying to be like, well, what's that? What's a Moor? What are you talking about? You in the United States, you in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Well, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is a corporation that exists only on paper by whoever went to, like right now, you can create corporations from the comforts of your own home on your laptop. You can create them on your home on your laptop, right? All you gotta do is say, oh, this is my corporation's name. This is where the headquarters is. You pay maybe 25 Federal Reserve notes and you register them with the so-called corporate state and they give you an EIN number. Employer identification number. What the hell does that mean? Subjecting you to the corporate state because you registered it with this corporate state. This is why we don't register anything, right? So when you went to the dealership and you purchased your so-called conveyance with unlawful currency, but the one thing that was lawful was your signature, even though it was under wardship status, but at the same time they needed that to tap into your estate to do the transfer from here to the so-called corporate state. So they transferred this conveyance from their hands to your master's hands, which was the so-called Pennsylvania, the so-called corporate state, right? The dealership sent it. And we get mad, right? Even I get mad because I'm like, wait a minute, all that stuff went down and they supposed to be administering? What are they supposed to be administering? Not for themselves, never for themselves, for you. They were supposed to be administering for you as the Moorish American nationals. Because like I said, on the Declaration of Independence, they pledged. That's why all those lawful documents are so enforceable in your scimitar. Because they owe us. You're the creditors. We're the creditors. The Moorish American nationals, you, me, they're the debtors. They created all this damn debt. Right? And the dealership sent the certificate of the origin title, the manufacturer's origin of title to the so-called corporate state. And it's being held at the, I think it's at the Secretary of State's office, if I'm not mistaken. So they're holding it. Okay, Moors, what do you do now? You done declared and proclaimed your nationality, so you're no longer identifying this. Go get your property back. Go get it. Right? But the dealership knows that you're incompetent when you come in because you're using Federal Reserve notes to try to acquire property. So one, they have a process for nationals. They have a process for wards because the wards cannot own anything. That's why you get certificates of things and you don't have the very thing itself, certificate of title. And then you got to spend more so-called energy on getting these things. So when you go to the dealership and you purchase a so-called conveyance, which is an automobile in that system, you're transmitting unlawful currency. They are drafting up promissory note with a so-called bank. So the dealership, just like a mortgage that we talked last week, it's the same thing. It's not different. Same thing. They create a promissory note from either the so-called bank or the so-called dealership might have a bank in it, or banks that they subcontract with to provide you based on your so-called credit score. All y'all have AAA credit. Y'all just don't know it. It's being used by the so-called administrators that are acting like white people on the land. Right? So because of all that, now they got to make sure you cool. You gonna protect our property as the so-called corporate state. We're going to make sure you protect our property as the so-called corporate ward state, and we're going to make sure you get a license so we know you know how to drive. We're going to make sure you get insurance so if you get into an accident, our property is protected. And then we're going to make sure you have, register it every year so we know you've gotten all the so-called checks that it needed on a yearly basis. So if the emission needed to be replaced, all these other things, if something goes wrong with the conveyance, you did what you were supposed to do as the so-called share, because it's kind of like a sharecropping agreement again, just like the so-called living. It's translatable in every aspect of your lives, family, every aspect of it. So what I'm saying is they make you get the so-called license, the proof of insurance, and all of that before you drive off the dealership lot. So those were the three ways they got jurisdiction. It was through the license, the insurance, and the registration. And these are the people that did it. These are the three things that subject you to the jurisdiction because you wards. These are all proof of wardships, right? I keep pulling up my pants. So, the dealership, when you went to there, tried to charge you all this so-called fiat, all this energy for a conveyance, an automobile. But before they would allow you, based on so-called the state of regulations and rules, which you were subject to because you didn't come in there as a Moorish American national, license, registration, insurance, and registration. They won't even allow you to, they won't even so-called allow you to purchase that without the ability to do that. So now it talks about what kind of plantation job you have. What kind of plantation job do you have where you're going to afford all this energy because you're working in order to fund this? It is your work. It is the fact that you go to the job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that's giving you this availability because you're an outlaw and you're a ward of the state. And as soon as you stop making those contributions, those payments to have a privilege, you're paying for a privilege, family, that you have a right under your nationality. You're paying for your own land, your own resources, your own wealth back from the so-called administrators who were supposed to be administering the state. But part of that agreement, I'm sure, had to do with them letting you know who the heck you are. And genocide is very, very much illegal. And you don't have to necessarily be shot in the face to kill someone. You kill them by taking their culture, taking their history, taking their past, their present, and their future away from them. And you dictating all of that based on this. Right? So this is how they got us to play the game. So now when they're corporate employees, damn, I said
enforcers, ENFORC. ERS or yeah.
So when they come around, they're policy enforcers. What's the key word in this? Policy. They're policy enforcers. They're enforcing that you did this as wards. But because you're wards, you got to do that. That's why they stopping. Wards. Based on the tags. What are the tags? The stickers? The plates? The stickers and the plates. The stickers and the plates. The stickers and the plates are the tags that the policy enforcers, which are cops, outlaws, bandits, are using to verify that you have your license, registration, proof of insurance, and you're obeying driving laws, which are not laws, driving codes, right? So these people are contracted security people. I'm not going to call them officers because you have to be elected and appointed to be that, right? So these people are contracted from who? State of, county. The county where you domicile near. Contracts these corporations that are all employed by people that are family to them to make sure that whoever has these and whoever are subject to this have these and obey these. Driving codes. Driver's licenses, I think that's right here. Driver's licenses right there. Also highwayman. Yep. And what's a highwayman? I can tell you what a highwayman is. A highwayman is a bandit that goes around stealing people's stuff who are traveling on the roads. If you're traveling on the roads and a so-called policy enforcer comes around, he's a highwayman. He's a so-called cop, he's an outlaw, he's a bandit, and he's a terrorist because he's a ward too. He's a ward of the state. In order for him to even get this appointment to be a police enforcer, he got to register with the state. So if you're, say you're Moore, and you know you're Moore, and you want to go work for the police department, in order to work for them, you have to get back into your wardship status in order to register. Because you got to go to a so-called academy, and then you got to take an oath. Not to the so-called Constitution, because they're policy enforcers. You're taking an oath to the state. To whatever corporation that has contracted you. That's who you're taking the oath to. Right? They know that because that's all they get. That's the only information they get. They don't get constitutional law. They don't get international law. They claim to be very ignorant to those two facts. They think everybody who domiciles in Morocco are subject to the United States Service Corporation under the 50 states as wards. That's the education that they get. Will they be held accountable for the violations? Hell yeah, because ignorance of any laws in any statuses does not absolve you from your responsibility to know the laws of the land and to be in your national pedigree. for those people who domicile here ancestrally, because even though you were birthed here, you do not have any rights here just because you were born here. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to tell you, that being born here doesn't give you citizenship, right? So where was I? So when the policy enforcer is traveling in Morocco, on the roads of Morocco, they are fraudulently trying to call the highways of the state. The state don't have anything, because the state, again, only exists on paper, right? And I posted the years each 50 state and joined the charter, which was the United States Constitution. I showed you that when they joined. Oh, Islam! Did you really make it, Heather?
No, I'm Robin.
Oh, you're Robin.
You know what? Hi.
Islam, how are you? Pax that some more.
I talked to Heather last night.
She's in Delaware, Wilmington.
Yeah, I know.
At the hotel.
I was there, like at the house of
Reawakening Minds.
And I asked her to I tried to help her. I didn't know where you guys was. They kept telling me downstairs. I was sitting for like 20 minutes.
Are you serious?
We don't know.
Conference room. Just say conference room, and they'll tell you where we are.
And it was like,
well, you know how they work.
You know, so I'm like persistent, like.
She's still down there now, waiting for the bus. Still down there. Crazy, right? Well, welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
We're going over National Human Trafficking Process. Just, you can sit anywhere you want to sit. Just be sure not to kind of bump the table, because that thing is just sitting there, because my mount. Let me tell you, like I said, I bought this mount a week ago, and I lost it already. And I had it this morning. So you tell me if people ain't messing with me. But I have little minions that like to mess with all of my things. So, but Islam and welcome. Okay, where are we at? Highwayman. So, so the state of whatever, let's say Pennsylvania. The state of Pennsylvania under the colony. Now let's say Delaware County. So Delaware County contracted a bunch of different police department corporations, right? They contracted a bunch of different police department corporations to make sure anybody with these, identifying as these wards, better have this and better obey this, the driving codes, right? Is it lawful? No, it's not lawful. Even in this nonsense, it's not lawful, because guess what? These are not sanctioned by any lawful venue.
Hey, that makes sense, because a piece of paper cannot put that kind of enforcement out there.
Right? And what's the piece of paper trying to do it?
The piece of paper is trying to actually...
And what is the piece of paper, the actual piece of paper trying to do it? The piece of paper that they registered trying to call themselves a so-called state, a so-called municipality, a so-called corporation.
Right, that piece of paper that...
But it was a person that filed it. It's a person that actually said, oh, I want to be the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
That was...
and there might have been 5 people.
That was William Penn. He was doing... I did some studying. He was working as, what do you call it? Moonlighting. And he was working a second job. He was in the employ of Great Britain, and he came over here and worked the second job, hustled real estate, and this is how it came.
Yeah, keep in mind, a lot of those Albions was not necessarily free either.
No, they
were subject to the colonial states of Great Britain. Yeah. So they were kind of like living, and that's where the Declaration of Independence really comes from, because the Declaration of Independence speaks specifically to what they were trying to get independence from.
Right.
And what they were trying to get independence from was Rome, Great Britain. They were over here. Keep in mind, like they have seas separating them, right? But they're being subject to some so-called some government across the land, and they're all the way over here. And they have their people like remember when at certain times they had so-called soldiers court within there living with them, like they would have to like house them in their own quarters, right? Not only did they have to house them, they had to feed them, they had to take care of them, they had to buy stuff for them.
Yeah, aid and comfort, yeah.
Yeah, that was after the that it was kind of part of the Intolerable Acts after Boston Tea Party. where they dressed up as so-called Indians, but we know they didn't dress up as so-called Indians. We know they didn't do that. And dropped all the tea from what? What was it? Massachusetts Bay Company?
The Bay Colony, yes.
And it was mad. But why was they mad? They were mad because now they were creating, this is another thing that they were creating, specific people who were certified to sell the tea. So now they were boxing them out. They're like, no, you got to have a certificate, a stamp, like this world, all this crazy stuff to kind of box out the Albions and keep them in that specific little category.
That was after the Treaty of Paris, 1763. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 was presented by King George that you had to have permission, license, to do business here in North America, because this is all British North America under deception of what we know today as the French and Indian War, but actually was the Franciscan Brotherhood against the Aboriginal Americans, and that's how they acquired all this land and all the Northwest Ordinance. All that was part of the British Empire, which was really controlled by Rome.
Yeah, that's where
after 1213.
1215 do the Magna Carta.
Right.
When what was the
barons forced him to King John to sign off. He reneged on the contract he had in 12. Oh, I'm sorry. It was 1215, 1213. He had a contract with the Popes of Rome.
He goes so far in the past.
Yeah, but it's
relevant.
Because what's going on today, we have to know what happened.
That's true.
And why.
That's true. That is true. You're 100% true. But the realities is that the let's get back to my thought.
It was on paper.
It was on paper, right?
The paper is putting these laws out, and that's unconstitutional, and it's unlawful, and it's disrespect.
But how can you fall for it?
Violation of it.
There's only one way you can fall for it, by not knowing the law,
right,
and being outside of it, right? So not only do we not know the law, we outside of the law, and we being subject to all of this, and we wondering why now all of a sudden when you don't have this, and you are this. Now here's where the topic comes in. Now they're trying to detain you because you don't have this, and you have this, right? For the Moors. So now they really are proving this. In the cover, the wool is pulled off of the Moors' eyes to realize what's really going on, right? When you were under here, they had jurisdiction, right? They had jurisdiction to do all of the things that they did to you because you were identified under all their numerous schemes to keep you subject. So you would never learn your true problem, which is nationality. All of the movies you watch, all of the music you listen to, even if they're your beautiful, beautiful artists, they all are denationalizing you. Through their language, they're spelling you.
That's right.
And that's through, think about, what was one of those songs that was, whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the police. Whoop, whoop, that's the sound of the beast. And they were like, officer, officer, officer. Even though that was a song that was supposed to so-called liberate you, but they called you calling them officers. So when they pull you over, you be like, how may I help you, officer? You just gave them a title. You just gave them the title to have jurisdiction over you. And now they're going to slam you on the ground. They're going to pull you in. They're going to do all types of stuff. So stop calling them the things that they are not and call them the things that they very much are. Outlaws, bandits. I wouldn't call them a cop because I don't know what cop means. What does cops mean? What is a COP? What does that mean? What does it stand for? Does anybody know that? Because I don't. What does cop stand for? Because I'm sure it stands for something. So, we were talking about dealerships, and we were talking about how the dealerships if you come in as the ward, trying to use paper money and use your accounts, they already know that you are subject to this piece right here. So they're going to put you here unless you know that you're here by declaring and proclaiming and letting them know, no, we transferring conveyances, we transferring title, and you need to be giving me this, and I'm going to give you one of these.
Okay, cop. That means if you call the cops, you're calling an entertainer. The cop, catch or arrest. That's an offender. Incur, something unwelcome. And they're unwelcomed.
What does COP means? What does cops mean?
Oh, you're talking about the acronym?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I know it's an acronym.
Okay, I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. I got all these new messages and it ain't going down. I'm black. I'm not proud. Yup, I'm black and I'm proud. Yup, James Brown. That was another very, very popular. Very, very popular. But we can list them all day.
Constable on patrol.
Okay. Constable on patrol. Let's write that down. Let's write that down.
Let's look up constable. Hold on, let's make sure. What's a constable? A peace officer with limited policing authority, typically in a small town. The governor of a royal castle. That's a constable. So they're on patrol. How are they on patrol? What are they doing?
They're peace officers. Wait a minute.
With
How's a cop? They don't even use this tag no more, just so y'all know. They don't be using COP no more. And now, if you really paying attention to the movies and the propaganda, now they're trying to show you, back in the day, it always had police on the back of their uniforms on different movies, cop shows today. The first people on the scenes is who now? If you're paying attention, they got sheriff on their back, right? But they are not sheriffs and don't have that capacity or that position. One, if they haven't been voted in, and two, if they violate the supreme laws of the land.
That's right.
You only have the title while in good standing. And when we say good standing, that means you following the law. So when a sheriff officer comes, and you got to find out, okay, who was the sheriff elected or appointed, right? So, okay, this was the sheriff appointed, and then he or she will deputize deputies under them to protect the people, because the sheriff is in job not to protect the people, but the highwaymen, the policy enforcers, are contracted to protect the profit, to protect the corporations. Wards are property of the corporation, state of, county of. So getting out of that status is the best thing you could do ever as a Moorish American national, right? Declaring. So these are ways how they detain you, through not having a license, insurance, registration, driving codes, tags, plates, and because you're classified under the warship status, right? So think of it this way. Think of this. Where was I at? You never really entered into a contract to be a ward. You never signed up for that willingly, nor did your mom, nor did your father, right? So that's why it's so easy to step out of that and to step into this. It's quite easy, and it's a decision. It really is, right? So to stay here is to be an outlaw, a bandit, and a terrorist. And if you are not our brothers and sisters, you will be deported. Literally. So that's a big question, because I know the biggest thing that Albion is thinking right now, well, how the hell do I get out of this if this is where I'm at? I know this is what they think. I'm not here to answer that question for you, because you got to go in it the same way you came out of it. And I'm not going to answer it for you. Not today. I'm not. I'm going to leave you on that boiling pot of water boiling. I'm going to leave you boiling. Because right now, that's what you are. And it's specifically because you violated all those laws. Declaration of Independence.
And might I add that, they got a direct command from their boss, the Pope, who told them through the letter, or through the civil letter that was sent to Barack H. Obama, and said, how it was to be distributed, and they were clearly listed on the list, and they're to be disarmed. You know what? The only one that has free of grease in the land today is the marshals, and that's for two reasons: for the moving, to keep the mail straight, and to act as a constitutional officer on the part of the natural people of the land. The same as, like you said, sheriffs. When sheriffs come, they're there to, to act in the interest of the national. Not here on a dummy mission, a corporation. And you up against, but you're here for that corporation, and you think that you're talking to a corporation when you're not.
And you're not. That's right. Because the corporation can't speak.
That's right. And that's just what I said. That's right.
Exactly. They know exactly. Mm-hmm. they know what they're doing. Even if they try to act ignorant, even if they try to act belligerent, they're going to go on their script. They have a script. So when you start talking Moorish nationality, they don't, all they got to do is, that's why they always say, oh, you talk about you part of the sovereign citizen movement. They don't have any other script because they know as soon as you talk about Moorish American nationality, they have overstepped their authority. Completely. They know this. They want to keep playing with you because now they're saying like, oh, I'm in trouble. Let's see how much trouble I'm in. We talking about these people right here. Outlaws, bandits. The constable on patrol to patrol in the to keep the peace. What kind of peace you trying to keep? Because we all peaceful. We peaceful. We go into our little plantation jobs. Don't even know we wards of the state. Don't even know when we go to a dealership we purchasing and they transferring a thing. You know now, Morris. You know exactly how to operate today, right? And they're going to keep trying their different media campaigns, smear campaigns to keep you in blind obedience or to keep the fear going. So always look at TV, always look at these things as a way, as entertainment. And if you can get a jewel here and there, you're only going to get one. You're only getting one. Out of a whole hour, maybe 2 hour broadcast, you may get one. I was watching a freaking show yesterday. It was cracking me up. And I don't even want to get down there. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because we got to get back to this. So, but watch movies with a keen eye today, and not for, you know, one of the things that our people, because we didn't teach our children anything and we didn't raise them with the culture, with anything, our children were sponges. They were literally sponges, and they absorbed whatever they had access to. They had access to the TV, they had access to the schools, and they had access to their friends. So this is where they learned how to function. They did not learn it from you and dad, mommy and daddy, because mommy and daddy was where? At the plantation all day. Y'all all day at the plantation as wards of the corporate state, and your children are getting raised by that same corporate state you're subject to.
That's why they call the television shows TV programming.
Programming, live vision.
And what is that called? There was a show I saw last night, and it went on for 10 seasons, 10 years of programming. It's called Stargate. And I saw one last night.
Which one?
Stargate.
It's called the Stargate?
SG-1.
Oh, I love it. That's my favorite show.
But guess what? I noticed it from our perspective now. I'm looking at things a lot differently. Mm-hmm. And I saw, wait a minute, they're talking about the United States. Oh, hold up. That's not a country. And they got it laid out. So it's all a country. So and
right now they're trying to tell you the truth in different broadcasts. Mm-hmm. But it all depends on what you're watching, right? And you got to keep in mind, man is mind, so whatever you think, you are. So whenever you are dealing with situations, don't think the worst possible outcome, because that will definitely happen because you first thought it. So stop willing the bad things to you by thinking them. So if you think you're going to get arrested, if you think you're going to go to jail, if you think you're going to die, if you think you're going to get raped, you're most likely going to happen to you because you just thought it. You just manifested it. You are the manifestors, mothers. You are the manifestors. So watch what you think and how you think. And what situation, what energies, what times of the month that's reducing you to think a specific way. Certain times of the month, I know people better not call me. I better not answer the phone. I'm by myself because my Stargate, we go through, just like the lunar cycle, the moon cycles, those cycles do affect you, and you are living based on those cycles. But because you're ignorant of them, you don't know when to sit down and not say anything. Talking and when not to talk, when to move, when not to move. Astrology teaches you how to function here in this plane of manifestation. It literally teaches you that. And what did our people teach us about astrology? Talk about its witchery, its witchcraft, it's evil, it's demonic. It's the very thing that saves your life. So, we know how they assume jurisdiction. They assume it through this and this, and these are contracts. Contracts. But were you competent to even sign a contract? Because if you're under here, you can't even sign a contract, which is why they give all your stuff to the state. Because you can't sign no contract because you're incompetent, because you're outside of law. You're a minor. None of the laws apply to wards. You're outside of it. That's why you're called an outlaw. You're outside of the law. And the only way you get in it is what? Declaring your nationality. So now law applies to you. It's like literally when you watch, remember Mario Brothers, and I'm probably going straight old school for some people. Mario Brothers, whenever he ate one of those little pellets, and he became super powerful, that was him eating a pellet was nationality. Think about it like that. Every time you eat a pellet, you nationalizing. And now you got all this strength and can't nobody touch you. You just like pushing through everybody until that darn thing wear off. But your nationality never wears off, so that's the cool piece. And you only got to eat one pellet.
So under all those brands, wards and all the way back, all the way down to the black, Negro, and all that. No, you're absolutely right. You're Civil War II. You're dead in the eyes of the law.
Completely dead.
Absolutely dead.
That's why you outlaw. You're outlaw. You're bandit. Because you're outlaw and bandit and terrorist. All right, I want to talk about those three because I don't want you to ever forget them. That's why I keep saying them. Our people that are denationalized, as well as anybody else functioning here outside of their normal nationality, are operating under this. Well, one, they're outlaws because they're outside of nationality. So they're outlaws because they're outside of nationality. Therefore, they don't even know anything about law, because if they knew anything about law, they would know that they would need a nationality. Automatic. So you're outlaw, you don't know anything about law. So you can't use it for your defense when somebody hurts you or punches you in the face. You ain't got there ain't nothing you have. So when the policy enforcers come, all they looking for is who they giving the citation to. And they might give it to both of you. Just make something up. Bandits. How are you bandits? What is a bandit? Can you look up bandit? What's a bandit?
Okay, bandit is, bandit is, a robber or outlaw belonging to a gang and typically operating in an isolated or lawless area.
Okay, say that louder again. One more.
Chester, for example.
Ah!
Distressed area.
Say it one more time.
Okay, a robber and also an enemy aircraft. A robber or outlaw belonging to a gang and typically operating in an isolated or lawless area.
Okay.
The bandit produced a weapon and demanded money.
Yes. So bandits are everybody outside of law. Outlaws. A bandit is automatically an outlaw. You're automatically an outlaw if you're a bandit.
The
constable, a bandit if you're an outlaw.
The constable on patrol approaches with a holstered gun and writes a ticket demanding without.
He's an outlaw.
Was it a foreign bill of exchange?
Right. All right. Now, how are they terrorists? Because they're trying to put their codes, processes, and policies. They're trying to inflict all the nationals with all this, right? So this is where they try to take your conveyance, take your domicile, take your children, all of these things they take. They're terrorizing you through national human trafficking, right? But they ain't nationals, and if you look at it, they're not really human either, because they're property of somebody, y'all. They're not even classified as that.
A person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims.
Damn, that was a terrorist?
Yeah, and that's noun. Adjective, unlawfully using violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims.
Oh, goodness. I mean, so a ward, as well as a policy enforcer.
Outlaw. No,
a highwayman
on patrol.
A highwayman, a policy enforcer, a constable on patrol to protect the peace. I don't know how they're going to do that when that's probably why they don't use it no more. Because you don't hear these things anymore. I mean, you don't hear COP, cop, constable on patrol anymore.
An outlaw is a person who has broken the law, especially one who remains at large or is a fugitive.
Yeah, you're a fugitive. All y'all fugitives.
Yeah.
That's so true. That's so true.
That's why the lawyers get paid a kickback when they go to court and you hire a lawyer to do it, because
the attorney's only, and it ain't a lawyer, because a lawyer is knowledgeable in the law. They're attorney. That's why they call themselves attorneys and don't call themselves lawyers. It's fraud to even call themselves lawyers when they don't practice law.
I'm a lawyer. You're a lawyer. She's a lawyer.
Exactly.
Okay, well, the attorney.
Which are only to turn you over.
Right, because you're a fugitive, they give you a kickback. It's the 10%. We did some study and we found out they actually get paid. You actually get turned in. Like what do you call their license?
It's like ransom.
What do you call those people that go after the criminal?
Bail bondsmen?
No, not the bail bondsmen, the other one. There was a TV show where they two ladies, they go on and get the
bounty
hunters.
That's the attorneys. They
That's
bring
exactly.
Bring them with bounty and they.
But here's the crazy part about it is, you think they come in to help you, when all they're doing, even though you're not paying them anything, you're just making up more contracts that you won't be able to follow through because you won't be able to make the payments, and what you ransomed was your so-called home or conveyances, and then when you can't pay, they take everything else away. And they submitted you to the ward. Somebody had a question. It was, Albions are going to court systems, getting status changed to American nationals. How is that possible? We can answer that question. First of all, what courts are they going to get that changed? They're going to a court, or they're going to an administrator of the foreign corporate venue to try to get some fake papers. Do those papers mean anything? Does the so-called mortgage mean anything? Foreclosures mean anything, or the warrants mean anything? Because they all coming from the same so-called courts, corporate courts. Because to be American national, you're American national. To be national is to have a nativity. To have nativity means to come from somebody's navel. So that means you were birthed under a specific nation. What America is a continent, and a continent denotes a multitude of nations. So, can you be an American national? Can you be? Without the more in front of it? The more is what gives that American national any weight. It's the piece. It's the most important piece.
Or allodial. Or allodial American national.
You got to be a more.
Yes.
Allodial means what? Look it up.
REP Publications got allodial American national at the top. It says more somewhere else, but at the top it says allodial American national.
What does allodial mean?
Allodial is free. All right, let me just put that up.
Because it's the Moor. This is Morocco.
Right.
So Moor is what has to be a part of your nationality if you are a Moor. If you're a Moor, in order for you to be a national, you got to be a Moor. Here, you could be a Moor. You could be a national of a Manchurian from China, or Nicaragua. I can't say any of these.
Okay. Allodial is free from the tenurial rights of a feudal overlord.
So you're talking about somebody who's not subject to colonization.
All the feudal, yeah.
Because feudal automatically means Roman, automatically means colony.
Right, so allodial American national.
Allodial, okay, so what's allodial American national? What does that mean? What does that mean? Let's answer that. An allodial American national.
Let's look up American national.
Well, an American is a copper-colored individual found in Americas before.
The original.
Right.
Various copper-colored people.
And a national means you are the sovereigns of a land. The land piece you're missing in that definition. So you can't sit here and call yourself a American national and you look like a Albion. You ain't that's a fraud. You still outlaw being a terrorist. Because when you come in our tribunals, when you come in our Article 3,
that's right.
We already gonna know you're passing off fraudulent papers. Already gonna know. I already know what it says. I know what it says. But the more is what gives it the weight on that card. The MoorishAmerican.
It don't say it on here.
It don't say MoorishAmerican on your card? Yes, it does.
It says more American down there.
There you go. That's what gave it weight.
But the top it should say that, right? Like,
well, if you wanted to say it, you can, but you got to be able to stand on the card, not the card stand on you.
Yeah, that's true. It's just documentation.
That's
it's
it.
Ultimately me.
Exactly. They know who you are as soon as they see you. They know all those so-called wards that look like us as Moors. They know that. They call for you to stand underneath them, as opposed to you standing on over top of them, as the rightful heirs to Morocco, right? So to call yourself a American national, well, if you want to see, they'll let you pay for anything you want. They'll let you pay. They'll charge you what? How much they charge you to file something? Because all of these so-called illegal, unlawful attorneys that are no longer authorized to do business in Morocco by their boss, the Pope, under the General Orders letter. They already told you all of these things. They telling them. And guess why they still warring? Because they got to feed their family. They still warring because they got to feed their family, and too many Moors are still agreeing to the war chit game because a lot of our people have blended those families in those kinds of ways. But anyway.
So can I ask, would that be those people, the American that are calling themselves American nationals?
That's just like calling yourself white.
Right, exactly. So would they're trying to come in under...
They can't come in under anything, but go ahead.
Right. But, so they're right.
They're just trying to get out of that caste.
If I continue being Negro, Black, and colored, the European can claim the American status because I've abandoned my estate.
They can't even claim it. They can just use it.
Right.
I mean, they can't even claim it.
That's what I was gonna say. So they're coming in under this patriot.
We can just acquiesce it, and they just utilize it. Go ahead.
And they're coming in under patriots, and they're coming in under secure party creditors.
You can't be a secure party creditor.
Oh, they ended that back in 2013. They can't claim secure party creditor.
Can't. They ain't got no sovereignty whatsoever.
Yeah. That sovereign citizen movement is slowly dying down.
It's done.
They can't. The police are being trained to recognize that, but they can't do it, and they're trying to place it on us when we show up. But we got to stop saying we're sovereign.
You can say you're sovereign. You can say that.
But they'll mix it up.
It's your job. It's your job, and it's your responsibility to clarify.
Because I'm sovereign without saying it. You just gotta present yourself.
Now, when you say for instance, a policy enforcer abandoned an outlaw terrorist who you shouldn't have stopped for anyway, but we do what we do. It's gonna sit here and say, and you say Islam, because that's what I would say. Islam, peace and love, Pax Tabor. What can I do you for? And they say, I pulled you over because of blah 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 blah. Well, I'm sovereign, because some people say I'm sovereign. That's automatically what they say. I'm sovereign, and they're like, so you're claiming to be a sovereign citizen? Well, what is your rebuttal? Yes, I'm a sovereign citizen. No, because a sovereign and a citizen can't exist in the same. They're two. It's like an oxymoron.
A citizen is subject to.
A citizen is subject to the damn sovereign. Okay, so you can't be both. Actually, even if you're so-called mixed.
Actually, let's start out and make sure everybody gets some kind of message there. That makes a lot of sense. You know?
Anybody's asked a question? Let's see.
Okay, citizen is. Okay, citizen. Oh. Okay, citizen.
He's looking up the definition of citizen.
An inhabitant. Let's see, citizen. Under Merriam-Webster, is an inhabitant of a city or town, especially one entitled to the rights and privileges of a freeman, a member of a state, and a civilian as distinguished from a specialized servant of the state. That's a citizen. Based on that definition. So a citizen is a servant of the state? That's interesting. Based on that definition. Well, subject to.
The federal citizens.
Yeah, federal citizens.
They are subjects.
All right, next one is, what was the other one? Sovereign, right? Now that definitely we need to know. So that one says, okay, we have two nouns, one adjective. The two nouns, a supreme ruler, especially a monarch. A former British gold coin worth £1 sterling, now only minted for commemorative purposes. Now the adjective, possessing supreme or ultimate power.
And how can you have supreme and ultimate power?
And then be subject to.
In order for you to be supreme, you can't be subject to somebody else. You have to be a supreme, meaning you owe your life and limb to yourself, meaning you're not subject to another. So for you to sit here and say you're a sovereign citizen and to keep saying that, the reality is when if a highwayman or a bandit pulls you over, the first thing you say is, who are you and who gave you the authority to pull me over? And am I being threatened because the only reasons why I stopped was because of the social engineering that you might chase me or shoot me? So are you stopping me intending to shoot me? Because that's the only reason I stopped, because you had no authority in Morocco. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to command you, tell me who you are, because first, you had no authority to stop me. You have no authority in the land. The state is a corporation. This is notice of intent to lien. And the corporation that sent you. Because the land belongs to the Moors, and that too includes the highways.
And also, was a crime committed?
Was a crime committed?
Because there has to,
be
committed, there needs to be
an injured party.
So where's the
or is there an investigation that you think I'm involved in and you wanted to just clear me? Like, you could say a lot of these things.
Okay.
Right?
Well, just for clarity, for sovereign citizen, it's a loose grouping of American and Commonwealth litigants, commentators.
Sovereign citizen doesn't exist, so you don't even try to put it together. You can't put it together. It doesn't. It means nothing. That is just Google's idea of what it is.
Well, that's not Google. This particular one's on Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is just like Google.
I mean,
You know, people add to that Wikipedia, right?
Yeah,
anybody can add to it, meaning you can't use that as a valid source unless it quotes a valid source.
Exactly.
Like the Webster. But if you go into any dictionary, sovereign is going to be by itself, and so the hell too a citizen, because they never were meant to be together. You can't create a word which has its own meaning over here and here, and to mean, what the hell does it mean if it doesn't mean this or that?
And in case in point, just like you said, like Webster, it clearly says in Webster, 1828, Webster English Dictionary, it says who the American is. In 1936, the unabridged. Again, Noah Webster. It says who the American is. A native, the original Aboriginal natives, one of the various people who inhabited. Who inhabited the northern continent and was founded by the Europeans. But then when I went online, now they've added to it, and then right there on Google, you did, and now it says at the bottom, but is now known as the descendants of the Europeans.
That is so funny. You should have screenshotted that, because we could sue Google for that. And here's the reality. If you rely on an electronic device, it's going to change it.
Come on.
It's going to change, especially if that electronic device is in favor of colonization, because currently known as, popularly referred to, it doesn't mean what it means. What it means is what it originally was intended to mean. You can't change the meaning of things, family. I had this conversation with one of my sisters all the time. Well, this is what I mean. Well, you have to say what you mean, and you can't say what you think you mean to mean something that it doesn't. And what I'm saying is, just because you think something means a thing does not mean that. It means whatever it was intended to mean etymologically. So if you sit here and call yourself black, but you mean to call yourself a Moor, no. Black means one thing, Moor means something else. And regardless how you popularly, because if you want to use it that way, then Europeans were like, well, blacks are Moors and Moors are blacks. And just because we think that's what it means. Does that make sense? None of the things that I'm talking about make sense. So whatever a word meant, its root, that's what it means, regardless of what you think it means.
So connotative and denotative language is like you said, we really need to be slow to speak and quick to listen.
Slow to speak, quick to listen.
Right.
Etymon. We gotta learn etymology. And etymology is learning the roots to the words, because all the words mean whatever the root of that word is. And if it has most words only have one root, but they'll compound them together. And don't get me onto etymology, because I learned in the so-called brainwashing camps, and that's my issue as well as majority of our issues, because we have those connotative linguistics. Whereas though we think something means a specific thing, like slaves, we think slaves was a word that denoted to people who were enslaved. Moors were enslaved. Slaves are Albions. That is their pedigree. Slavs. Slaves, Slavs. We were the enslaved, and now we were the bound freemen. Bound freemen. Okay? So what was we talking about? What was the whole purpose of this class today? To talk about how you deal with national human trafficking processes, not to be confused with wards being subject to the state and being held into the state because of their violations of their code, statutes, and ordinances. So Moors, don't wait till the last minute to freaking nationalize. That's the point. Because there is much information you need to know, and much laws you need to be aware of so you won't be violated. So when we talk about the right to travel, because we do have a document coming out within the next week that every Moor is going to be charged to push out when we get that document out. And that document is on your free right to travel. You already have the right. You just have to operate in that capacity as a competent heir of the Moors. You have to operate that way, right? And that means knowing the law, so whenever someone tries to challenge you on that, as well as to do your due diligence, and if you was under here under the dealership, like many of us, me included, if you were under here and then you proclaimed and declared your nationality, you were supposed to be given certain information. Certain information Moors were supposed to be given to get out of this status. Once you realize and proclaimed your nationality, you were supposed to be able to go to the Moorish Science Temples of America and fix all this, all that stuff you did while you were under wardship status and regain your estate, which was anything that you transferred. Anything that was transferred while you was under the wardship status being held at state level. Everything's being held there. So you got to transfer it all back to you. That's the house that you domicile in right now. That's the conveyances that you drive that you think are automobiles. That's your children. You even have to reacquire them. because when you were having them all and doing all of that, you were sending it was like literally, even though it was in your hands, you were getting it to the state. And that's why they you in family court. That's why you in traffic court. That's why you in other particular corporate courts, because you didn't realize that you were subject to that.
That's right.
You didn't know. The question is, why didn't you know and me know, and why other people always know? And how can you have a Wakandian effect here in Morocco? How you living in the same area where your people being subject and you think you different? And you don't have a charge to liberate all your people from these Namdagirs. And they go and you don't have not one more school building in your own land. How you have that? But you have many, many Moors out there who've never been subject to any of this. Living free. While their brothers and sisters living under subjugation and don't even know that. Some people have explaining to do. How we both walking down the street. You free and I'm subject. You have things, I have nothing. You're eating, I'm starving. You're living, I'm dead. How's that happening when there's Moors? Because in order for us to even have known this, some people had to have been sharing it. But most people who knew this ain't saying nothing. Getting diplomatic plates, running like Morpheus and Neo in the Matrix. How? How can we be deceived in this way? How? How's that possible? So, what is the process? We talked about a lot of stuff that got you in. What's the process? What's the process? Here's the process. Well, obviously, first is declare your nationality. If you've already declared your nationality and you have Moorish plates, and the reality is, even if you don't have Moorish plates, because there are statutes that even within their corporation that say that even if you have a unlicensed, they can't pull you over, and they damn sure can't detain you for it, even in their jurisdiction, right? So you're outside of their jurisdiction, they're trying to pull you back in. They're trying to find some document that gives them authority. If you declare and proclaim your nationality, is there a document they can find on your persons in your conveyance that they shouldn't even be searching? Because they don't have authority to search it without a warrant? They have to have something issued by their so-called administrators before they partake in a particular activity. So if they pull you over and they sit here and pull you out of the conveyance and start searching your conveyance, did they break a billion laws right there? Even in the so-called corporate war state, searches without searches and seizures. You can't search and you can't seize without an authority above you, because you're a ward and you can't make no decisions, to get that authority through a warrant. They have to have a warrant to search your private conveyances. They have a warrant to search you. They have to have a warrant to even touch you. And they have to have that already before they even come to you. And if they come into you in any other pretense, it has to be an inter-party investigation. And they're just asking, not commanding and not detaining. Right? So why is they pulling you over saying, and you're sitting here saying, I am a Moorish American national, and they're sitting here trying to talk to you after that in any capacity? Because once you say you're a Moorish American national and you didn't injure anybody and you were not under investigation, and even if you were under investigation, again, they got to have some type of document from somebody who has the authority to act without a piece of paper. A policy enforcer has to have a piece of paper to act from their corporate status people. And that is a warrant, even in their jurisdiction. But it's only subject to their people, not to you as Moors. And they know this. If you don't know it, if you didn't know it yesterday, you know it today. And even if you didn't know it, doesn't give you the justification or the validity. It doesn't validate anyway. That's why the first thing you want to say if you get detained, this is notice of intent to lien you for this unlawful detainment. Start with that. What is your name? Because this is notice of intent to lien, and I want to make sure I have the appropriate name on the lien. Because I'm not only going to just lien you, I'm going to lien the whole department, since you thought you were smart enough to come and stop me. That's even if you have not dealt with the so-called corporate tags, y'all. Once you declare and proclaim your Moorish nationality, all those so-called contracts are void. Ab initio. Automatic. Because you're now literally got law. You literally took that pellet like Super Mario Brothers. You got the pellet. You done took it. That's right. By declaring and proclaiming your nationality, and you got those 8 lawful documents on deck. And he ain't got nothing. Or she ain't got nothing. And I don't care if they look like you or don't look like you. So y'all got to get comfortable with standing up for yourselves, Moors. And not just handing people a piece of paper or even your nationality card, because you are your nationality. Your card is just validity of that. So the first thing you do is say, I'm a Moorish American national. I do not submit to any jurisdiction outside of my Moroccan estate. And this is notice of intent to lien you for pulling me over unless you have a valid and lawful reason, meaning I hurt somebody, I'm under investigation, and you have absolute information to give me towards that. Outside of that, this is notice of intent to lien you and the corporation you work for obstructing me or detaining me. And because I know you are not competent to make any decision outside of what I'm saying, contact the sheriff, contact the marshal. And if they say, oh, I don't know who the sheriff is, I don't know who the marshal is, you're supposed to know who the sheriff and marshal is. So you better have that person on deck. Be like, all right, I'll call him.
There was sheriff.
And if they don't come out, and if they don't, because guess what? Wait a minute. Some of the things say, oh, if you're in an emergency from the sheriff's office, call 911. Huh? How if I'm in an emergency, I'm supposed to call 911 to get a policy enforcer? Really? Go ahead.
The sheriff of Philadelphia, Julie Williams, he said one day on the phone, just a couple of years ago, that he answers to the governor.
The sheriff does not answer to the governor, and if the sheriff says that he answers to the governor, that means he is a paid ward. And he is no longer a sheriff, because sheriffs answer to the people. They take their oaths to the Constitution. But if a particular mayor is saying that they answer to the so-called governor, that means they have subcontracted out their services to the corporate ward state, and they are now warring against the people, the nationals. So if that's what they say, they already absolved themselves, so they no longer have that title. Stop calling them that. Like, all right, well then that means you don't have a title, and if you come on my property, I might just shoot you. Especially if you come in on behalf of a corporation, because that's what the governor is. The governor is the head of the state that was so-called elected, but no, he wasn't. He was appointed. Because if you do the real research, you will realize how far that rabbit hole goes, and how all of those individuals just make up a damn corporation, make up a name, and then just start hypothecating.
Right, doing business as.
Brandy said, I'm calling you laughing my butt off.